Hey, I'm Brandy. They actually call me Blogging Brandy, and this is RVersity, my university for RVers. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to rent an RV. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of the video so you can learn the best place to find your next RV and the best RV for your next vacation. Okay, let's get started. There's two different types of RVs that you can rent. One is going to be a motorized unit, which is like the one that we're in. So you can either drive up here, you can see I'm sitting on the couch, or we can go to the bathroom back there. I have my fridge right here. There's a stove and stuff. If you haven't seen the tour of my RV, you can check it out in the description below this video. This is a Class B RV and what you call a motorized RV. There's two types of RVs, and one is going to be a motorized drivable unit, and the second type is going to be a towable unit, which means that you actually have to have a tow car. So in the drivable unit, you can drive and live. In the towable unit, you can only live, but you can bring a tow car, and the advantage of having something like that means that when you get to, say, an RV park or campground, you already have a car to be able to drive, so you can just unhook and go. For the most part, these are the most basic types that you're going to see, or the most common types of RVs that you're going to see. Motorized units, or motor homes as you might hear them called more often, there's three classes that you're going to hear about when you're trying to rent an RV or buy an RV. There's three classes that you want to know. There's Class A, which are those really big buses that you see, and they can sleep anywhere from 4, 6, 10 people or more depending on how big of a rig it is. Every RV is going to be different, so that's going to be your largest RV, and obviously the larger, the bigger, the more luxurious, the more expensive. Then you're going to have your Class B. We're in the Class B right now. It's more of a van. You can have anywhere from 2 to 4. Sometimes you'll have people say 6, but it really depends on the layout, and there's so many different floor plans. The one I'm in is made for 2 people specifically. And the last type of RV, or motorized RV, motorhome, is the Class C. So the Class C, believe it or not, is actually in between the Class A and B, which is a little weird, but it's the typical RV that you see, which is that big overhang, and you say, oh my gosh, that's an RV over there. You could probably sleep anywhere in there from, I would say, 4 to maybe even 10 people, but 6 to 8 comfortably probably. But it really depends on what unit you get. Like I said, this drivable unit here for a Class B is made for 2 people, but a Class C could also just be made for 2 people. But keep in mind, just because it's a bigger RV doesn't mean that you can sleep more people. And just because it says it sleeps, say, 6 people, doesn't really mean that it can sleep 6 people. I would say 4. If it says 6, assume 4, because you don't know how the beds are set up. It may have bunk beds, it may not. It really just depends. How do you choose the right type and size of RV for your vacation or next trip? You gotta ask yourself some questions. Where are you going? How big is your group? And what is your budget? Now you're gonna need to do some pre-planning. Always plan ahead. Otherwise, it can get really costly, or it can leave you feeling frustrated and definitely not having fun on your next trip. What do you plan? First, you need to plan your drive. Second, you want to plan for when you arrive. When it comes to planning your drive, you need to remember that RVs are tall and heavy, and they can't necessarily go everywhere a car can go. There may be restricted roads, narrow streets, or low bridges. And when it comes to planning your trip, you also want to consider how many miles you're going to be driving and the amount of days that you're going to be gone. Next, you need to make sure that you plan for when you arrive. Now, that includes things like parking and sleeping. Where are you going to sleep? Are you going to go to an RV park? if it's your first time RVing, I would suggest you go to an RV park, maybe somewhere like a KOA campground, because they're very resortish and they usually have staff, they have full hookups. If you want to understand what hookups are, I've made a bunch of tutorials about that. You can check those out in the description below. And your hookups will include things like your water, electricity, sewer. They might also include things like Wi-Fi and cable, but those are the basic. And if you plan on going to a campground or RV park, make sure you plan on paying that additional expense, because it's going to cost you probably somewhere between $25 up to even $100 a day at these places. And keep in mind, if you go weekly or monthly, you get a much deeper discount. Even if you're not going to stay the entire time, it might be cheaper to do one of those rates, or at least reserve it for that amount of time. Now, if you don't want to hook up, you can always go the boondocking route, or dry camping as they call it. If you haven't heard about that, I made a video about that too, and you can check that out in the description below this video. But essentially, you are camping without hookups and camping. The next thing that we need to do is actually pick an RV. First, you want to think about things like your amenities. So how much room do you want? Do you want slide outs in your kitchen? Do you want a stove, or maybe a microwave? Do you want a full fridge? This is I would say fuller size fridge. You can get a standard one for the house. You also want to check and see, do you have a full freezer? This has plenty of shelving, but some of them only have a small freezer or no freezer at all, so that's something to keep in mind. And then is your bedroom, and this is kind of weird, my bedroom is essentially here in this slide out. You can see this slides out. So when we talk about slide outs, this slides out of the RV, and this turns into a bed. So right now it's a couch, but you can see my bed linens up here because this folds down into a bed. And then some RVs also have bunk beds, so if you have children, that might be something to consider. You can also choose the option to have a full bathroom. Full shower in here. I have a sink and a toilet. Sometimes your shower and your toilet are together, and your sink, they're all like one thing, and that's just not me, but for some people that works. And when it comes to picking an RV, it really depends on the number of people that are going to be traveling with you, and the number of seats, the number of beds. How much room are you really going to need? Have a budget. Now, how much does it cost to rent an RV? It depends on the type of RV, how old it is, and how long you're going to be renting it for. Now, the prices can be a lot cheaper if you rent them for, say, a week. I would rent an RV for a week or a month if I wanted to get a better discount, and you can get anywhere from 10 to even 50% off of what the daily rate is if you rent it for a longer period of time. Flip side, there's actually a minimum for most of the RV rentals that you have to rent them for, say, 2 to 3 days. And of course, another thing to think about is when you're renting. If you're renting in July or August, that's peak season for people to be traveling and going on vacations, so it's probably going to cost you a heck of a lot more to rent an RV. Now, some other things that you can expect to pay in the cost of your RV rentals are things like a deposit, insurance, taxes. As far as a deposit goes, they're going to probably ask you for a card to put for your reservation to actually reserve the RV, and then whenever you rent the RV, they're going to want something like a liability and damages type deposit. This can be anywhere from $300-500 on the low range up to $1,000 or more that they're going to want to hold on your card in case something happens. Now, this will normally be refunded to you. Next, you're going to think about insurance. So usually what happens is you check with your car insurance company and say, hey, will you cover me if something happens whenever I rent this RV? You probably want to call and find out and ask them a couple questions and find out what all they cover. And then whenever it comes time to rent the RV, they might ask you to sign some type of liability waiver saying, yes, I have my own insurance. But if your car insurance company doesn't cover that, you're going to want to pick up insurance from the RV facility where you're renting, and they will usually provide this somewhere between, I'd say, $25 to $45 a day on top of the cost of your RV. And then you're gonna have things like taxes. So don't forget, everywhere there are taxes. So that's gonna have to be factored in. This may be something that they can tell you up front, or it may be something you're just gonna have to think, okay, well, I'm probably gonna have to pay a percentage of taxes. This is a big one. Obviously, they have to give you some type of mileage limit. Typically, they give you about 100 to 150 miles a day when you rent the RV, and then if you go over that, you have to pay excess fees for the additional mileage. This is a biggie. You're gonna need fuel for driving and fuel for fun. Your fuel for driving is gonna be your gas or diesel that you actually put into the RV if you have a motorized unit to take it from one place to another, just like you would your car. Or if you're towing an RV, you're still gonna have to pay for your fuel. So you wanna think about the fuel that you need in the cost of renting. You can't really drive this thing as fast as a car. It's kind of deadly and heavy, so I wouldn't do that. I would probably stick around 55 miles an hour to 60 if you want to get the best gas mileage. And just so you know, you're probably going to get really shitty gas mileage anyway, so just expect to pay a lot at the pump. Fuel for fun. If you're not plugged up in an RV park, you have to bring your resources with you. That means you're going to have to run your generator. In my case, my generator takes LP, or you might hear it referred to as propane gas. That's something that I have to buy in addition to the gas and diesel that I use in the RV to get from place to place. So it's actual propane tank like you would have in a gas grill at your house, but it's underneath the RV. This would power things like my AC or my microwave. And then if you say, oh, well, I'm not going to use those, well, you might also want to consider that if you're not plugged up in an RV park, you might want some hot water, or you might want to heat the RV, and those things are probably also going to require some propane, or you're going to need gas to cook. Of course, if you use all of the propane gas, you're probably going to have to refill the propane gas, or at least pay for refilling it, so that's something to consider. And then back to talking about the generator. Now, the generator itself is going to need fuel to run, but they look at the hours that are on your generator. For mine, you can see that there's not a lot of hours. So mine, there's 37.4 hours. Next, you're going to want to think about your water and your waste. If you decide to hook up at an RV park, you're going to want some water, right, to be able to wash your hands or maybe take a shower. And to be able to do that, you're going to need some water. So you can either fill your fresh water tank before you leave, or you can get water when you get to the RV park or campground. That's what you call hooking up, so that you can have all of your amenities. What goes in must come out. So after you've taken a shower, wash your hands, use the bathroom, eventually you're going to have to empty your holding tanks. The way that I know this are from my gauges. So I come and check these every once in a while, and I say, here's my fresh water. And this is the clean water that I have on board. And then this is my gray tank, which shows that it's empty. And my black tank shows that it's empty. So that lets me know. The same thing, it tells me about my battery and the propane as well. But this lets me know whether I need to actually empty my holding tanks. And you want to keep an eye on the gauges, because if not, it's going to back up in your drains and you're going to see it. And it's really not as bad as you think. I made a video about how to dump your RV holding tanks. You can check that out in the description below this video.
And if you decide not to empty your tanks and bring it back full, they're probably going to charge you a fee because nobody wants to empty your poop.
Some other costs to think about when renting an RV are the number of people that you're bringing, and if you have pets. They may or may not allow pets, either in the RV, or say you're going to a campground, you might want to consider they might have a pet fee as well as a people fee. So some places charge you by the number of people, and RVs are just like houses. So are you going to be bringing your own utensils and towels, or are you going to be renting them?
There's a fee for that.
As well as a cleaning fee. So a lot of times, especially if you rent from a private individual, they're going to have some type of cleaning fee to be able to clean the RV whenever you're done and prep it and get it ready for the next person. Cleaning fees oftentimes range anywhere from $100 to $150. It really just depends on how big the RV is and what that owner says in their rental policy. So here's a few tips. Not all RVs are made alike. Another tip is to make sure and plan your meals ahead. And like I said, bring your utensils, your linens, your towels, all of that stuff with you is going to save you money on top of the cost of renting the RV and all of the other expenses that come along with it. And last but not least, you want to find a reputable RV dealer to rent from, because one, you want to think about safety and how they upkeep the RV. Do they check the tire pressure and the engine? And something on the RV breaks like every time. Right now, my transfer inverter box is fried. So that's something that I have to have fixed, and that's something I have to think about. So if I wanted to rent my RV out, so it's broken right now, so I wouldn't be able to rent it. And if somebody was on a trip and that was broken or happened, I would probably have to refund them their money. So that's something you want to consider is, do they also offer any kind of emergency roadside assistance, and what's deemed an emergency? So if the TV goes out or the fridge or something like that, are you going to get your money back, or is that just part of the RV experience? These are all things to think about when you're renting an RV. And if you're renting from a private person versus, say, a major dealership or a major corporation rental agency, they might have more RVs available should something happen, versus an individual. If they cancel your reservation or something happens to the RV at the last minute,
You may just be out of luck.
So now you know how to rent an RV, but do you know where to find one and all of the right questions to ask? Don't worry, I've got you covered with my RV rental roundup. It's my guide to help you find the perfect ride. You can check that out in the description below this video for all of the goodies and everything else that I mentioned. I'm Blogging Brandy, and this is RVersity, a university for RVers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.